All right, Shalom. This is Harwan Banyasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp. I want to say Kal Halayim, La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Harakakwadash, Ma'amath. Double honor to the elder apostles of GMS and the elders. And Shalom to you, Akim, Nagwatim, and children that believe in sincerity and the truth around the four corners of the earth. I wanted to finish up edification on this Daniel chapter 9. Now, I was going into it and I got a little strayed off with the Jeremiah prophecy, so I put that up first. And so I want to get back into this Daniel chapter 9. This is Daniel chapter 9, verse 1. In the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, of the seed of the Medes, which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans, right? So in the first year, which would be around 538, the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, the son of Astyages, of the seed of the Medes, right, which was made king over the realm of basically Babylon, all right? Now, in the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by the books the number of the years whereof the word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolation of Jerusalem, right? So the Lord was saying he was going to destroy Jerusalem for our people doing idol worship, being wicked as they're doing today, and that's what got us in this condition. But let me read that again. It says, in the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by the book, so he understood the scriptures that was written at that time, which shows you the Paleo-Hebrew, which is really called Proto-Hebrew, or the first Hebrew, until it became ancient, which was later called Paleo-Hebrew. We had writings, all right? Understood by the books the number of the years whereof the word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah the prophet. So Daniel was saying he understood after everything he went through from the time going into Babylon from 605 with Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel understood the words of prophet Jeremiah that Israel was going to fall to Nebuchadnezzar and the Chaldeans from 605 all the way till 535 or so, right? 538. All right, but Babylon fell in 539. So now it says, verse 2, the word of Yahweh that came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolation of Jerusalem. And I just went into the 70 years. So now I want to get into the prophecy that you can read the chunk of Daniel 9 to get the understanding of why we went into this bondage and how the Lord had to purge us and cleanse us through affliction, all right, and making us pure and perfect through faith and hope, right, and obedience. Since the times of Adam, the way was made narrow. All right, so I'm gonna go into that later as well. Yahweh Ratazah. So this is let's get into it. So this is Daniel chapter 9 and 23. At the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved. So the Lord loved Daniel, so he gave him these visions. All right. Therefore, understand the matter and consider the vision. 70 weeks. See, it changed from 70 years to 70 weeks now, right? So the Lord was telling Daniel how he was going to destroy Jerusalem, right? Destroy the tabernacle of David, basically, the northern kingdom and southern kingdom. And he was going to destroy the temple and the people. It was going to bring them back to their land. with Cyrus, and then ultimately end that whole process and prepare. He was going to end that process with the bringing in of Alexander, right, in the Hasmonean dynasty, and then transitioning into the arrival of the Messiah, Yahushua, and the Anointed Ones, which was the end of that process. All right, and we were cut off. So I want to get into that. All right, this is Daniel chapter 9, verse 24. It says, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city. Right, so upon thy people and the holy city. That's very important, because this was a destruction upon the people and the land. All right, so the land was in captivity as well. All right, I can't find the scripture. I was looking for the scripture. It says the land is going captive as well, and she's mourning. I know it says Judah mourning in the gates language, but it's another one that says the land is captive as well. I just can't remember where it's at, but anyway, yeah. So the land went into captivity as well. It was destroyed with the people. So 70. No, let's get it. Daniel 9:24. 70 weeks are determined upon the people and upon thy holy city. All right, that's the focus. All right, to finish the transgression. So it's a judgment. Transgression of the law is going to be a judgment, and to make an end of sins, and ultimately through Yahushua, the Lord made an end of sins with the people, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. All right, and that's what the Lord did. He anointed the first fruits of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua through this process. Now, let's get to 70 weeks. All right, so you go 70 weeks. Week is 7 days, and this is prophetic, so it's talking about years. So 70 weeks times 7 would equal 490, so it'd be 490 years. And the Bible's accurate, right? So if you take 490, now we first started falling with the Pharaoh Necho in 606 with Jehoiakim, all right, in Babylon, with what's his name, Nebuchadnezzar, in the Battle of Carchemish, and from then you had 605 and and such with Nebuchadnezzar. So if you go from, we can go from 605 or 606. Let's do 606 and you say take away 490. That would be 116 BC. All right. And in 116 BC, that's when you had something called the the Most High was saying, so from that point, from the time of Jehoiakim, when Jehoiakim started to fall, he was wicked. Right, from the fall of Israel, or from Jerusalem, all the way to the rise of Jerusalem and our independence again, to where we would be autonomously ruling, with co-ruling with the Seleucid Empire and the what you want to call the Herodian dynasty, if you want to call it that. The Idumeans, with Antipater and Hyrcanus. You had John Hyrcanus, which was an Israelite. He was of the Hasmonean dynasty, and the Hasmonean dynasty goes back to the Maccabees. Judas Maccabees. Now, Judas Maccabees, he was the one originally called Maccabee, which means the hammer. All right, and his brothers were titled that as well, so they called themselves the Maccabees. But originally, and you had the Hasmoneans, which they get that name from. I think it's I always say his name wrong, man. Matthias, which is the father of Judas Maccabees. his grandfather or his father was named Asmoneus, and that's where they get the name Hasmonean from. All right, so they call themselves the Hasmonean dynasty. Now, around 116 or 134, all the way to about 40 BC, you had John Hyrcanus ruling. All right, John Hyrcanus, he reestablished rulership for Judea, and we became known as the kingdom of Judea again. All right, instead of the Hasmonean dynasty, you know. So that's when we got our liberation. It was called the time of the liberation of the independence of the Jews. And and you had adherents, which were people like Antipater the Idumean, the Edomite. He was trying to become a Jew, and he wanted to be take on the faith and worship Yahweh, but our people knew that he was an Edomite, and we looked down on him and said, "Yo, you Esau, you can never be a real Jew because you're not of descendants of Israelites." So he later had a son named Herod, and that's when the scriptures get into that. All right, so that's what this is talking about. From 606 to 490, you subtract 490 years. The Lord saying He's going to complete it from that time, from the fall of after Josiah going to Jehoiakim, which was a wicked king, Jehoiakim, all the way until 116 BC. We were going through that process, and after that, we're going to be setting up for Herod and the bringing in of Yahushua, all right, around 4 BC. All right, so I'm going to read that again. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon the holy city. So through this whole process, the kingdom of Babylon fell. Jerusalem fell, became wicked and fell 586 BC. And then the temple was burned in between that time, around 570 or something like that. And then you had, what was that? Us going into with the Persians and the Medes coming back to Jerusalem, right? We were taken to Babylon, and then we became, the Lord had us put up under Cyrus the Great and Darius and taken back to Jerusalem, right? And the decree went out to rebuild the temple. And then from there, you had the foundation built and the walls, right? And then you had, the Darius, and then the other time under Artaxerxes. And then you had the rededication of the temple under the Diadochi, which was put in place by Judas Maccabees. And that's when you get that whole process. All right. And then after that, we were made independent and sovereign. And that was set up for Yahushua to be put in place. Now, so let's get into it. So that was completion of it. All right. 70 weeks are determined, so that'd be 490 years, are determined upon thy people. And what you want to start at is around 605 or 606. And upon thy holy city, to finish the transgressions and to make an end of sins and to make reconciliation for iniquity and to bring in everlasting righteousness and to seal up the vision and prophecy and to anoint the most holy. All right. And through this process, the Lord was able to anoint the most holy of our people, which was going to be called the elect. Now, 25, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again and the wall, even in troublous times. So basically saying from the time of the commandment going forth to rebuild the temple after it's destroyed, Uh, it was destroyed in 586 by the Babylonian, by Nebuchadnezzar and also Esau, the Idumeans, Edom. Now you had where was that? It says, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build, right? But it was letting you know in the scripture in 25 that that everything was going to be built. The decree was going to go. The decree was going to go out to rebuild, and the street shall be built again, meaning the foundation and everything, and the wall, even in troublous time, meaning nations, these heathen nations were coming up against our people, while we were rebuilding during the times of Nehemiah, rebuilding the walls, and that was going to be complete, and that's the date you want to start from to do this calculation. All right, and going into the time of the Messiah. Now, the preparation of the Messiah being brought in. So let's get into it. Now, it says, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem. Let's get that. This is Ezra 6:3. In the first year of Cyrus the king, the same Cyrus the king made a decree concerning the house of Yahweh at Jerusalem. So the first year is talking about the first year of him ruling over Babylon. And that happened 538 BC. All right. That's when he took that spot as ruler of Babylon, and ruler of the world. That's what they called him, of the lands. And later they called him King of Babylon. It says, in the first year of Cyrus the king, the same Cyrus the king made a decree concerning the house of Yahweh at Jerusalem. Let the house be builded, the place where they offered sacrifices, and let the foundations thereof be strongly laid, the height thereof 60 cubits, and the breadth thereof 60 cubits, with 3 rows of great stones and a row of new timber, and let the expenses be given out of the king's houses. And they even made the Edomites pay, because Esau burnt down their houses, but they made Esau give up money to pay. They was mad, man. All right. It says, also let the gold and silver vessels of the house of Yahweh, which Nebuchadnezzar took forth out of the temple, which is at Jerusalem, and brought unto Babylon, be restored and brought again. And that happened around 606 or 605, where Nebuchadnezzar started taking items from Jehoiakim. All right. And brought again unto the temple, which is at Jerusalem, every one to his place, and them in the house of Yahweh. All right, so now this work was halted by an imposter king, which he's not counted in the number in the book of Daniel 11. Real quick, I'm gonna get that. All right, this is a little curveball, but I'm gonna go to this real quick. Daniel 11:1. Also, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. Right there, Daniel was there, and he was set in place as like a president or a noble. All right, in respect that he was in the high seat during the time of Babylon, and his people was in bondage, and the Lord was blessing him. All right, with wisdom. Now, even I stood, and Daniel was thrown in the lions then twice. All right, stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia. All right, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all, and by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. Now you had, and a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. Now, all right, so what you want to start from, you really want to start from Cyrus the Great. All right, because it's talking about the kings. And one of the kings was an imposter. His name was Bardia, but he wasn't a real Persian. All right, and that's why he got taken out. He was the one that was in place that was hindering the building of the temple during the times of, I think, Haggai. All right, I think Haggai was prophesying about it. And so you have first king was Cyrus the Great. The next one will be Cambyses the second. All right. His grandfather was named Cambyses the first. You know, but you had Cyrus the Great, Cambyses the second, who ruled from about 530 to about 522 BC. You know, Cambyses the second. But then you had an imposter step in place. He was called a magi, named Smerdis, and it was said that he actually killed the real Bardia. All right, and that's the one that didn't want the temple or the decree to be completed, because all the sons of Cyrus, they wanted to follow after their father's footsteps and push the decree. You know, if they put a decree in place, that was the rule of the Persians. Once they put a law in place, they can't remove it. So for him doing that, that was like sacrilege, or whatever you want to call it, or you know, trespassing against their rules, their laws, their customs. So that's when you had Darius come into play, and he was a true Persian. All right, this was a different Darius from the one that was ruling Babylon. You know, so this was around 522 BC. All right, and this Darius, he was a Persian, and he killed the imposter Bardia. So that's when you get your third ruler, which would be Darius. All right, Persian ruler. And then you have the fourth Persian ruler, which would be Xerxes, you know, one of the richest, and he stirred up all against the Macedonians, you know, the Grecians, would set the stage for Alexander to come in place. And that's important according to Daniel chapter 9 with Alexander, because all these scriptures are tied together. All right. So now if you want to start from Cambyses, you can do that, but Bardia would be an imposter king, so it'd be better to start from Cyrus and go to Cambyses, skip Bardia and go to Darius, and then to Xerxes. You know, so 3 kings in Persia, and the fourth shall be richer than they all. That's Xerxes. So, all right. So I'm gonna read this part right here. This is the completion, you know, a sum up of the temple being finished in a 3-step process through 3 different kings. All right. So it's talking about, it says Ezra 6 and 12. I'm starting from here, 12. And the God that had caused his name to dwell there, destroy all kings and people that shall put their hand to to destroy this house of Yahweh, which is at Jerusalem. I, Darius, have made a decree, and this is Darius the Persian. All right, and he made this decree, and when he got into office, I think it was around 520. He got into office in 522. I think he made a decree in 520, and then in 516, the foundations were laid. So I'm just get into it, let the scripture speak. So let it be done with, it said, let it be done with speed. And the elders, verse 14, and the elders of the Jews builded, and they prospered through the prophesying of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddu, sort of like a shepherd over the sheep, man. Just like today, we have elders and you have the shepherd over the sheep, the, apostles, and Yahushua being our shepherd, guiding us through the Spirit, right, to rebuild the spiritual temple, the tabernacle of David, and David being what Dawad, meaning also meaning love or order, right? Now, let me just keep reading. It says, and they built it and finished it according to the commandment of Yahweh, the power of Israel, and according to the commandment of Cyrus, that's one, and Darius, that's two, and Artaxerxes, king of Persia, three. So the first one, the decree went out, and it started to lay the foundations till it was hindered by Bardia in 522. So the decree went out in 538 with Cyrus, and then they began to work around 535. Then you had it stopped and halted by 522 with Bardia after Cambyses left to go to war, I think with Egypt or something like that, a conquest in Egypt. Now, so you have, and then you had 522, then you had 516 with Darius, where they laid the foundation. That's what I want to get next. And then at the end of it, the completion with the walls, spoken of in Daniel chapter 9:25, with Artaxerxes, and that happened in 445 BC with Nehemiah. All right, and Zerubbabel. Now, so let's get the time with Darius when they laid the foundation. All right, this is First Ezra 2:16. Now, right here, this is going into the time when the wall was being built during the time of Artaxerxes around 445 BC with Nehemiah, and they was trying to hinder the walls from being built, and they were using letters, sending letters to Artaxerxes, reminding him of how they tried to stop the wall from being built, or the temple from being built, and the city from being built, back during the times of 20 years ago, before that, which would be during the times of Bardia in 522. All right. So during the times of Bardia, they were trying to stop the walls from being built, and they were calling us wicked, just like they're doing today. They're trying to stop us from building the spiritual walls and the spiritual citizens, right? The children of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, the pillars, and through edification. They call us wicked, try to hinder our building. But so this is First Ezra 2:16. But in the time of Artaxerxes, king of the Persians, Balamus and Mithridates and Tabelius and Rathamus and Thethmus and Semelius, the secretary, with others that were in commission with them, dwelling in Samaria and other places, wrote unto him against them that dwelt in Judea, in Jerusalem, these letters following. See, they wrote letters. These were all heathens, and they wrote letters unto Artaxerxes, all right, the Persian king. It says, to King Artaxerxes, our Lord, thy servants Rathamus, the story writer, and Semelius, the scribe, the rest of their council, and the judges that are in Seleucia and Phoenice, be it now known to the Lord King, that the Jews that are up from you to us, being come into Jerusalem, that rebellious and wicked city, they called us wicked, man. It's crazy. Do build the marketplaces and repair the walls of it, and do lay the foundation of the temple. Now, if this city and the walls thereof be made up again, they will not only refuse to give tribute, but also rebel against kings. And they were trying to find a way to trap us up, basically, man. You know, until this day, they don't want to see the children of Israel being rebuilt, according to Amos 9 and 8, spiritually. Verse 20, it says, and for as much as the things pertaining to the temple are now in hand, we think it meet not to neglect such a matter, but to speak unto our Lord the King, to the intent that if it be thy pleasure, it may be sought out in the books of thy fathers. And thou shalt say, it was saying, yo, look into the history and look what happened with Darius. They tried to build it and so on, so blase squaze. So they was basically demonizing us, man, And thou shalt find in the chronicles, meaning the recordings, what is written concerning these things, and shalt understand that the city was rebellious, calling us rebellious, troubling both kings and cities. So that's why the Lord said, man, we was tormenting to him, man. According to Revelations 11, it said these two witnesses that tormented the heathens, and the two witnesses is the northern kingdom and southern kingdom. All right. We would torment them with righteousness and with the scriptures and with the spirit of Yahweh Shem Shai. And that the Jews were rebellious and raised always wars therein, for the which cause even the city was made desolate. And they lied on us and said we were made desolate because we were being raising up against them. And that's a lie. We were made desolate because of what Daniel and Jeremiah prophesied, that we were being wicked. We were following after their customs, after these heathen customs. So the Lord destroyed us. All right. It wasn't because we were waging war. It was lying. It says, wherefore now we do declare unto thee, O Lord the King, that if this city be built again and the walls thereof set up anew, thou shalt from henceforth have no passage into Seleucia and Phoenice. The king wrote back again to Rathamus, the story writer, to Beelthethamus, to Semelius, the scribe, and to the rest that were in commission, and dwellers in Samaria and Syria and Phoenice, after this manner. I have read the epistle which ye have sent unto me. Therefore I commanded to make diligent search, and it have been found that that city was from the beginning practicing against kings. These dudes here, man. All right. And the men therein were given to rebellion. All right, verse 27. It says, and the men that were therein were given to rebellion and war, and that mighty kings and fierce were in Jerusalem, who reigned and exacted tributes. So we have mighty and fierce kings, man. In Seleucia and Phoenice. Now, therefore, I have commanded to hinder those men from building the city, and heed to be taken that there be no more done in it. So Artaxerxes was approving. He approved that we that these heathens can hinder us from building the temple. All right. And that those wicked workers proceed no further to the annoyance of kings. Then King Artaxerxes, his letters being read, and then that's when you had the situation with Zerubbabel being chosen, all right, and then the walls actually being built, And now, then King Artaxerxes, his letters being read, Rathamus and Semelius, the scribe, and the rest that were in commission with them, removing in haste toward Jerusalem with a troop of horsemen and a multitude of people in battle array, began to hinder the builders. See, so they're reading it from the past, right? The letter from the past of what happened in the past. It says they began to hinder the builders, and the building of the temple in Jerusalem ceased until the second year of the reign of Darius, king of the Persians. So they were reading a letter from the past showing proof that they were trying to hinder us from building the temple even back during 522. That was with Bardia, all right? And he said all the way until the second year of Darius, they were trying to hinder us from building. So until the second year would be 520, and that's when you get Zechariah, all right? So I'm going to get this again. Daniel 9:25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem, see that commandment went forth from the time of Cyrus the Great, 538, all the way, and then up to Darius, right, in 522, or really in 520. The decree went back out, and then all the way up to 516 with Darius when it was actually finished. And then you had Artaxerxes when the walls were being finished with Zerubbabel and Nehemiah. All right. And you had so you want to start from that, and then that's when you get your next calculations. So let's read it. Verse 25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks, right? And I'm gonna get that in a second. And that would average out to about 123 years, and that's accurate as well. The street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times. See, during those troublous times, the walls were built because they were trying to hinder us. And this is Nehemiah 4:11. And this was happening around 445 BC, man. And this is when the wall was finished. It says, and our adversary said, they shall not know, neither see, till we come in the midst among them and slay them and cause the work to cease. So they were trying to kill us, man, while we were building the walls. Just like today, we're building the walls and closing up the breaches through the Spirit. All right. And they seek to slay us spiritually and physically. And it came to pass that when the Jews which dwelt by them came, they said unto us 10 times, from all places whence ye shall return unto us, they will be upon you. Therefore set I in the lower places behind the wall, and on the higher places I even set the people after their families, with their swords, their spears, and their bows, right? The wall was built in troublous times, man. He set us up on the watch, all right, as we do the work. Just like today, we're on watch as we do the work. And our spears and our defense, our weapons of war is the helmet of faith, the breastplate of righteousness, the sword of truth, right? And the spirit. Now, it says with bows and their bows. Verse 14, and I looked and rose up and said unto the nobles and to the rulers and to the rest of the people, be not afraid of them. Remember Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. And that's what Yahushua is saying to us today. And the prophets, we're saying it to the people. Remember Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. Remember stories of Nehemiah, the stories of Zerubbabel, the stories of Daniel, you know, how the Lord delivered Jeremiah and Daniel. And fight for your brethren your sons and your daughters, your wives and your houses. And it came to pass when your enemies heard, when our enemies heard that it was known unto us, and Yahweh had brought their counsel to naught, that we returned all of us to the wall, every one unto his work. And it came to pass from that time forth, that the half of my servants wrought in the work, and the other half of them held both the spears, the shields, and the bows, and the habergeons, and the rulers were behind all the house of Judah. They which builded on the wall, and that bear burdens with those that laid it, every one with one of his hands wrought in the work, and with the other hand held a weapon. That's what we're doing today. We gotta be able to build and edify and rebuke. You gotta build up some and tear down some. Right, to be able to cut with the sword and also build up. For the builders, everyone had his sword girded on his side, and so builded. And he that sounded the trumpet was by me. And I said unto the nobles, and to the rulers, and to the rest of the people, the work is great and large, and we are separated upon the wall, one far from another. Just like today, we separated around the world, and we building the wall spiritually. All right. And building a ship or ark. Now, in what place, therefore, ye hear the sound of the trumpet, resort ye thither unto us. Our power shall fight for us. And when we hear the trumpet, Yahweh Shah gonna fight for us in the midst of our building and edifying. So we labored in the work, and half of them held the spears from the rising of the morning till the stars appeared. And that's spiritual as well. Likewise, at the same time, said I unto the people, let everyone with his servant lodge within Jerusalem, that in the night they may be a guard to us and a labor on the day. All right. So basically, the walls were built. Let me get this. All right. The walls were built in troublous times, man. And according to the prophecy, and that would happen in 445 BC. And that's when you go into the next part of the prophecy. All right, Nehemiah 6:15. So the wall was finished in the 25th day of the month, Elul, in 52 days. So it was finished in 445 BC, in the 5th day of the month, Elul. All right. Matter of fact, I'm gonna read this. And it came to pass that when all the enemies heard thereof, and all the heathen that were about us saw these things, they were much cast down in their own eyes, for they perceived that this work was wrought of the Most High Yahweh. Just like today, the ones that get delivered, according to Wisdom of Solomon chapter 5, that are the chosen, the memorial stones, the first fruits, they're going to be looked at the heathen. The heathen going to look at them and say, wow, the Most High really with them. And this is a work of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. A fully developed stone, a righteous stone. All right. And I'm going to do a little bit more, and I'm going to end it and then make it in 2 parts. But you have right here, verse 25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, all right, shall be 7 weeks, and 62 weeks. 60 will be 60, and 2 weeks will be 14, so that's 74, right? In 7 weeks, that'll be 49, so that would be about 123 years. And the street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. So let's get that. All right, so we went from 606 and put 490 and got 116, and that took us to the times of John Hyrcanus, where we were liberated, and the process was completed, and it was set up for Yahushua to be born in 4 BC with the Herodian dynasty, with the wrestling of the Hyrcanians, John Hyrcanus and his descendants, Aristobulus, wrestling with the Herodian dynasty and going into Yahushua being born, all right? At the Herod became bloodthirsty through jealousy. Now, and chasing after power. All right, so that's 116 BC. That's what it'll take you to. So that's what the Lord was saying. Hey, I'm gonna make this happen. You're gonna go into Jerusalem. Gonna be destroyed. Shit gonna disappear because it's gonna be burned down. I'm gonna have it rebuilt, rededicated with the Maccabean, the Maccabees, the Hasmonean dynasty. And that dynasty gonna turn into the kings again. It's gonna be the times of called the kings of Judah. All right, the Judean kingdom again with John Hyrcanus. And then that's when all hell broke loose again with the Herodian dynasty going into the triumvirate, all right, with Pompey, Julius Caesar, and Cassander. Yeah, I think that's his name, Cassander. But anyway, so now let's get this calculation right here. So it said, so now if you go from 445 BC, and that was when the walls were finished with Nehemiah, 445 BC, during the time of Artaxerxes, and you take away 123, you get 322. Now in 322, that's a specific year as well, because that's when Jerusalem became the property of Alexander and the Aegean Empire. All right, and that goes into First Maccabees, you know, and also Ezra's, I think it's 12 or 11, if I'm not mistaken, where it starts talking about Mark Antony and all the Caesars and the Diadochi and the four wings and the, you know, such. All right, and also Daniel 11 or Daniel 8. So like in Daniel 8, where it speaks about let me get it. All right, this is Daniel 8:3. It says, "Then I lift up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the Ram yeah, I think it's right. Yeah, come to pass in the province of Elam. All right. Then I lifted my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had two horns." And that's talking about the Medes and the Medo-Persian Empire. All right. Now, because it was originally called the Persian Empire, but it was later called the Persians and the Mede, or Medo-Persian Empire, which was coined by Xerxes. All right. Now, it says, "And two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last." That's talking about the Persians. Now, I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so they were taking over everything. All right. I think they had a bunch of provinces, man, so that no beast might stand before him. No nation was able to stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west, which is Macedon, or the Aegean Empire, the Aegean Sea, on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had two horns. All right. I think it was Philip the Macedonian, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him and smote the ram and brake his two horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him. And that happened with Darius the third. All right. The last king. He was known as the king that lost Persia. But he can't cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him. And there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. And that's talking about Alexander the Great. All right. His son, the son of Philip the Macedonian. And so it's talking about Greece and the horn being Alexander the Great. He was great in wickedness. But so it was very important about him being spoken of, even in Daniel 7, where it speaks about the leopard. All right. And Daniel 9 and 26 speaks about him as well. You know, or should I say 25, where it calculates from 445 up to 322, where Alexander was ruling, and he died 9 years later around 313 BC. So at 322, he took Jerusalem, and we became a province of the Aegean dynasty. All right. Now, after that, you have what you call the Diadochi, which you get the Seleucid Empire. So this was, Most High was letting us know that all this was going to happen. You get the Seleucid Empire, of which you get Antiochus Epiphanes. All right. Where he took away our worship in the temple. In 168 BC, came and basically put his abomination up to Zeus, right? And desecrated the temple, but he didn't destroy it, burn it down to the ground. He burned parts of it. But that happened in 168, between 169 and 168. And then 167, you had Mattathias and Judas Maccabees raise up against him. And then that's when the temple was rededicated, all right, by at least 166 BC. That's when you get Hanukkah. So now, so that was the process that Alexander kicked off, man. The Grecian rule, the pagan rule of Esau. And then after him, you have what you call the Diadochi, called the successors. That's what Diadochi means. All right. It was spread to the four winds. Not by his choice. It was through deception and murder. All right. They killed his son, Alexander's son, you know, and it was a lot that happened. I did lessons on it before. If you look through the playlist. All right. The son of Alexander. I might try to repost it. But it says, therefore the he-goat waxed very great. That's why they're the goat, Esau, the devil. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. He died, 313 BC. And for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. And that's when you have, what was his name, man? All right, yeah, that was his name. Because I always get them two mixed up, Marcus Crassus and Cassander. But the Diadochi, the term means successors, right? And you had the Aegean dynasty, which was in Macedon, which was the capital of the pagan rule at that time. But then the successors, which were the Diadochi, after the war, the last war, there's a bunch of wars that happened between their families. The Aegean dynasty and the Diadochi families of Syria, right? Edomites that were ruling in Syria. They made that the capital now. So that became the capital for paganism, all right, or Esau's rulership. And that happened, really kicked off after Antigonus died and Demetrius got killed in the Battle of Gaza in 312 BC. All right. And so you had the Diadochi, which was Cassander, Lysimachus, originally was Antigonus, but he got killed. So you had Lysimachus, Cassander, Ptolemy, and Seleucid, of which Seleucid Empire you get Antiochus Epiphanes, all right, from the Seleucid Empire, of which came the wicked root out of the Antiochus. Now, all this matters because Daniel 9 and 25 gives you the calculations from the walls being built or the temple being built, the city and the walls, and you calculate from that, you get 322 with Alexander again. And from Alexander, it goes on all the way up to the time of Yahushua. All right. So it says, and out of verse 9, and out of one of them, or verse 8, therefore the he-goat waxed great, very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones towards the four winds of heaven. All right, that's the four. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great towards the south, and towards the east, and toward the pleasant land. And that's talking about Antiochus Epiphanes. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground. That's what we represent, the stars. Even in with Daniel chapter 12. Revelation 12. So that's the stars right there, and stamped upon them, you know. And they stamped upon us and brought us down. And that happened in 168 BC with Antiochus Epiphanes. And thus you had the revolt of the Judas Maccabees after Alexander in the Diadochi. And you had the Hasmonean dynasty that was built because of the Judas Maccabees, all right, the hammer, and his brothers, and Mattathias when he stood up, the Hasmonean dynasty. But later, during John Hyrcanus, they became the kingdom of Judea again, all right, in which John Hyrcanus, he led a bunch of military expeditions against the Seleucid descendants and made Idumea, Edom, convert to what you call, if you want to call it Judaism, you know, following Yahushua. And the main one was Antipater, which he was a financier or helped to fund John Hyrcanus' rulership. But he followed after our customs, you know. But he was a mixed breed through his mother, all right. And even Herod, his son, was a mixed breed. I mean, he was born. His mother was a actual Ishmaelite. All right, I forgot her name, but she was an Ishmaelite. Herod the Great. All right, he was the son of Antipater the Idumean, the Edomite. You know. So, but Antipater was following behind John Hyrcanus. You know, and John Hyrcanus helped to establish Judea as a kingdom again. So that's what the scriptures was talking about, to where we would be ruling autonomously with the Seleucid Empire. And then that set the stage for Herod to become bloodthirsty and kill off the Hasmonean dynasty descendants. And then we wrestled against the family of the Edomites all the way up until the last descendant of Herod with Agrippa II. All right, in 66 AD, when the revolution, the war between the Romans and the Jews started in 66 AD. All right, the persecution really kicked off again. So, all right, so basically, Alexander's a key character in the scriptures because that opened the door for Herod to be on the scene. all right, through the Seleucid Empire, or the Diadochi being in place, and then later John Hyrcanus coming on the scene with the Hasmonean dynasty, the temple being rededicated, and then the Idumean. Herod actually visited his ancestors, the Idumeans, in the caves, and through seeing that, this is in history, through seeing how his ancestors were living, he became envious, and that's why he wanted to build so much above ground and hated the Israelites, all right, because we were classy and clean people, and we looked down on Esau and said they could never serve Yahweh because they're not the true Jews. So he hated us, and that's why he killed off the Hasmonean dynasty. So I'm gonna get back to this. So now, let's start from 24. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon the holy city to finish the transgressions. So we know that's 490 years. All right. And to make an end of sins. And that took you all the way up to the time of John Hyrcanus. And to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. And through that, he anointed, through Yahushua, he was able to anoint the most holy. All right. Which would be the hopeful elect, the believers, through the Spirit. 25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to the restoring, to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince shall be 7 weeks. Now we understand in 60 in 2 weeks, that would be 123 years. And that'll take you to the time of Alexander. The street shall be built again in the walls, even in troublous times. So that happened during the time from Cyrus the Great to Darius to Artaxerxes in 445. And then the calculation goes from 445, 123 years later, all the way to Alexander.